You know what's funny? Everyone's obsessed with being happy. Like, it's this one ultimate goal you can just achieve, check off a list, and boom, forever content. We act like happiness is a full-time job, and we're all competing for Employee of the Month. But here's the thing, most people aren't really happy. They're just trying really hard to look like it. It's like everyone's walking around with anxiety, but they've put a little makeup on it to make it more socially acceptable, and we all pretend we don't notice. It starts early. As kids, we're told to smile for pictures, even when we don't feel like it. Say cheese. It's like the first lesson in emotional makeup. You're crying because your ice cream fell. It's okay, smile for the camera. That's where it begins, this training program to hide discomfort, to look okay even when you're not. And then you grow up and realize that the world runs on that same logic. Jobs, relationships, friendships, everything's built on the illusion that everyone's fine. Nobody wants to deal with your real emotions. They just want you to play the part. So we all get really good at acting. You wake up feeling like you've been hit by life's version of a truck, but you still drag yourself out of bed, put on some clean clothes, maybe a smile, and go out pretending like you're living the dream. You tell people you're doing great when your soul's in customer service mode, repeating, "Please hold, your happiness is important to us." And it's exhausting because deep down, you know, you're not fooling anyone, but somehow everyone's playing along. It's like we all made a silent agreement. I'll pretend to be fine if you do. The illusion of happiness has become so convincing that even we start believing it. You post a picture of yourself on vacation, smiling with that perfect filter. And for a second, you think, wow, I am happy. But you're not. You're just momentarily distracted. You've taken a break from your anxiety by giving it some fancy lighting and a caption about living your best life. And that's the irony. We keep trying to convince others we're happy until we convince ourselves. And by the time the likes fade, so does the illusion. Then it's back to that quiet little restlessness that never really left. You ever notice that most of the time, happiness feels suspicious? Like you'll be having a great day, everything's going right, and then a voice in your head whispers, "This won't last." That's not paranoia, that's experience. Because life has trained us to be ready for the next thing to fall apart, and that's why most people can't truly relax. We're like emotional soldiers on standby, constantly alert, waiting for the next disappointment. Even when things are good, our anxiety is just sitting there in the corner like, don't get too comfortable, I'm still here. And that's where the makeup comes in. The smiles, the jokes, the small talk, it's all concealer, because it's easier to fake it than to face it. People would rather see a confident version of you than the trembling one. You walk into a room full of people and say, I'm fine. Because if you said, I'm actually terrified of failing, lonely most nights, and unsure of who I am, it would kill the mood. Nobody wants that energy. So we put on our best version, bright, functional, maybe even funny, and we go through life pretending like we've got it figured out. But deep down, we're all carrying something. Fear, doubt, regret, self-criticism. It's all part of the human package. The illusion of happiness doesn't erase those feelings, it just hides them behind a thin layer of performance. And the problem with pretending to be fine is that it doesn't make you fine, it just isolates you. You start believing you're the only one who feels broken, the only one who wakes up with that dull ache of unease. Meanwhile, everyone around you is thinking the same thing, smiling through their own chaos, waiting for someone else to admit it first. We've turned emotional honesty into a private luxury. You can't just walk around being real anymore. It freaks people out. Try telling someone, I don't know if I'm happy, and watch them panic. They'll start offering you solutions like happiness is a tech problem. Have you tried gratitude journaling? Maybe take a vacation? You just need to be more positive. No. Maybe I just need to stop pretending. Maybe happiness isn't about fixing the feeling, it's about accepting it. But we don't like acceptance because it's not glamorous. You can't post acceptance on Instagram. There's no filter for that. Happiness, on the other hand, is marketable. There's a whole industry built on it. Self-help books, wellness apps, motivational influencers, all selling the same promise. If you do this one thing, you'll finally be happy. But nobody tells you the truth that happiness isn't a permanent state. It's temporary, fleeting, like the sunlight between storms. It comes, it goes, and that's okay. The problem is, we keep trying to hold on to it, and when it fades, we panic, like we've lost something we were supposed to own forever. You ever think about how weird it is that we compare happiness like it's a contest? We look at someone else's life and decide ours must be missing something. They look happier. They must have figured it out. But maybe they're just better at pretending. Maybe their makeup's thicker, their filter's stronger. We don't see the arguments they had before the selfie, the sleepless nights, the empty silences. We just see the highlight reel and assume we're the only ones backstage. And that comparison is poison. It feeds anxiety because you start believing you're behind in some imaginary race toward happiness. And that's the dangerous loop. The more you chase happiness, the more anxious you become about not having it. You start measuring your worth by how happy you look, not how honest you are. You think, if I'm not smiling, something's wrong with me. But what if the real issue is the pressure to smile in the first place? What if happiness was never meant to be constant? Maybe we've confused peace with performance, because real peace doesn't need to prove anything. It's quiet, it's messy, it's inconsistent, but it's real. Think about the people you've met who genuinely seem content. They're not the ones shouting about their happiness online. They're not selling it, promoting it, or posting it. They're just living. You can see it in how calm they are with themselves. They've accepted their anxiety, their flaws, their chaos, and somehow that acceptance makes them glow more than any fake smile ever could. That's not makeup. That's real skin. That's the difference between pretending to be happy and learning to live with everything that makes you human. The truth is, we're all walking contradictions. We want happiness, but we also crave chaos because it reminds us we're alive. We want calm, but we're drawn to intensity. We want peace, but we chase excitement. That's what makes life interesting. If happiness were constant, it would lose meaning. We need those moments of struggle, discomfort, and uncertainty because they make the good times feel earned. They give contrast to the picture. You can't appreciate sunlight if you've never stood in the rain. So maybe happiness isn't something you chase. Maybe it's something you notice in small, fleeting moments that happen when you're not pretending. Like laughing with someone who really gets you, or sitting alone and realizing you're okay with the silence. It's not a performance, it's a pause. But we miss it because we're too busy checking whether it looks convincing. We're so focused on the makeup that we forget to feel the moment underneath. And maybe that's the secret to stop polishing your anxiety and start understanding it. Because anxiety isn't the enemy. It's your brain reminding you that you care, that you're alive, that things matter to you. If you can sit with that feeling instead of hiding it, it starts losing its power. You realize that happiness doesn't come from pretending you're fine. It comes from admitting that sometimes you're not. We've spent so much time chasing this picture-perfect version of life that we've forgotten how to just be. Happiness isn't a performance, it's a moment of truth. It's when you stop acting and start feeling. It's when the makeup melts off. And what's left isn't perfect, but it's real. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's where the real kind of peace begins. Not in pretending everything's fine, but in finally saying, I'm human, and that's okay. You ever notice how life has this twisted sense of humor? It throws chaos at you, confusion, heartbreak, rejection, and somehow expects you to just keep walking like nothing happened. It's like life is this terrible comedian constantly testing your patience with bad jokes you didn't sign up for, and the only way to survive it sometimes is to laugh before it breaks you. Not because it's funny, but because if you don't laugh, you might start screaming. That's the beautiful, messed up thing about the human condition. We find ways to turn our breakdowns into punchlines. It's not denial, it's survival. Think about it. Every time you've been through something hard, there's always that moment later where you look back and think, how is that my life? You tell the story to a friend, and halfway through, you both start laughing. Not because it wasn't painful, but because it's absurd how much you had to go through just to feel normal again. That's the trick of laughter. It doesn't erase the pain, it just gives it shape. It gives you something to hold on to when everything feels too heavy to carry. We live in this world where everyone takes everything so seriously. Success, failure, relationships, mental health, everything's turned into this high-stakes drama, and we buy into it. We convince ourselves that every mistake is the end of the world, every bad day means we're broken beyond repair, but then something weird happens when you learn to laugh at it. You stop being the victim of the moment and start becoming the narrator of it. Suddenly, you're not trapped in the story, you're telling it. That's where power lives. You ever been in one of those moments where everything's falling apart and for some reason you start laughing? Like your brain just short circuits and goes, you know what, this is ridiculous. That's not insanity, that's clarity. Because for that brief moment, You realize that none of this chaos is permanent. You realize that pain, no matter how deep, is still temporary. And laughter, real laughter, is like a pressure valve for the soul. Lets out just enough of the pain so you can breathe again. Laughter is strange because it comes from the same place tears do. It's just a different sound for the same emotion. You can't fake real laughter. You can fake a smile, sure, people do it all the time. But laughter, that real, uncontrollable kind that hits you in the middle of pain, that comes from somewhere raw and honest, it's your body's way of saying, yeah, this sucks, but we're still here. It's proof that even in suffering, there's still something alive in you that refuses to give up. And sometimes, humor is the only language pain understands. You can't rationalize a broken heart. You can't explain depression into submission, but you can laugh at the absurdity of life. You can stand in front of your problems and say, this is ridiculous, but I'm not going down with it. Humor gives you distance just enough to see your pain without drowning in it. It's like life is a bad movie, and laughter lets you remember you're sitting in the audience, not trapped on the screen. The thing about anxiety, fear, sadness, they all want control. They want to convince you that you're powerless. But when you laugh at them, you take that control back. You turn them into characters instead of dictators. You stop being the prisoner of your thoughts and start being the commentator. That's why laughter is so dangerous to misery. It exposes how fragile it really is. You can't laugh and be completely hopeless at the same time. For that brief moment, joy wins. Even if it's small, even if it's temporary, it wins. And maybe that's the whole point of humor. It doesn't fix anything, but it changes how you carry it. It's like you're holding this heavy box called life. And laughter doesn't make it lighter, but it gives you handles. You can actually move it without falling apart. You start seeing the bigger picture. You realize that the same things that used to embarrass or hurt you have now become your best material, not for jokes, but for growth. You survived them. You turned them into stories. Think about all the times you've laughed with friends about things that once nearly destroyed you. Failed relationships, embarrassing moments, stupid decisions in the moment. They felt like the end. But now, they're your go-to stories. The same pain that once made you cry is now entertainment. That's not hypocrisy. That's evolution. You've transformed it. And that's what laughter does. It turns tragedy into perspective. It says, you can't control me anymore. I get to decide what this means now. But here's the truth. Most people don't want to admit laughter isn't always easy. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes you have to cry first before you can laugh about it. Sometimes the joke doesn't come until years later, after you've healed enough to see it from a distance. That's okay. Healing isn't about pretending it's funny when it's not. It's about knowing that someday, maybe not now, you'll be able to look back and see it differently. Because life has this way of making you laugh at the exact things you once swore you'd never recover from. There's a kind of sacred honesty in being able to laugh at your own pain. Not mock it, not dismiss it, just acknowledge it with humor. Because when you can laugh at yourself, you disarm the world. You take away its power to shame or define you. People who can't laugh at themselves are often the most miserable because they're trapped in their own seriousness. They're so afraid of looking foolish that they forget how freeing foolishness can be. We're all ridiculous. Every single one of us. We spend our lives pretending. We're not making it up as we go. But the truth is, no one really knows what they're doing. And the moment you embrace that, you start breathing easier. Humor reminds us that we're all in this together. Nobody's got it all figured out. Everyone's anxious, confused, and improvising. The laughter connects us because it breaks down the illusion of perfection. When someone makes you laugh about something you were ashamed of, they're giving you permission to be human again. It's like saying, yeah, you messed up, welcome to the club. That's why humor isn't just entertainment, it's empathy. It's the bridge between your pain and someone else's understanding. And sometimes, laughter is the only rebellion we have. When life tries to crush you, when the world feels heavy and unfair, laughter becomes an act of defiance. It's you saying, you can't break me completely. You're standing in the chaos, bleeding maybe, but still cracking a joke. And that's powerful because despair hates humor. It can't exist in the same space. When you laugh, even quietly, you're refusing to surrender. I think that's why some of the most compassionate people are also the funniest, because they've been through it. They've seen the dark, and instead of becoming bitter, they found light in it. They learned to joke about the things that almost destroyed them, because that's the only way to keep going. They know that life doesn't stop being painful. It just becomes bearable when you can smile through it. And that's not denial, it's strength. It's emotional alchemy, turning pain into laughter, fear into humor, anxiety into perspective. You can't really live without humor. You can exist, sure, but that's just breathing in gray. Laughter adds color to the chaos. It reminds you that even when life is falling apart, you're still capable of joy. Even if it's brief, even if it's fragile, it's real. And maybe that's what happiness actually is. Not some perfect, uninterrupted peace, but these little sparks of laughter that show up right when you need them most. And you know what's funny? The moments that make you laugh the hardest are often the ones that come after everything's gone wrong. There's something about being completely broken that strips away all pretense. You stop caring about how you look, how you sound, what anyone thinks. You just exist raw, unfiltered, real. And in that realness, laughter finds you again. It crawls through the cracks and reminds you, hey, you're still here. That's the thing. Life isn't supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be lived. Messy, unpredictable, full of absurd moments that make no sense until they do. And the only way to stay sane through all of it is to keep laughing. Not because it fixes anything, but because it reminds you that nothing, not even your worst day, has the right to silence your spirit. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is laugh, not to escape the pain, but to face it with defiance, to look at your life, your struggles, your anxiety, and say, you can't scare me anymore. I've learned how to laugh at you, because when you can laugh at what once terrified you, you're no longer its prisoner, you're free. You know, people talk about inner peace like it's some secret mountain you climb once you've figured everything out. They say things like, I'm finally at peace, as if that means they've stopped worrying, stopped overthinking, stopped being human. But that's not peace. That's either denial or death. Real peace isn't the absence of anxiety. It's learning to sit with it without trying to hide or fix it every second of your life. The truth is, most people aren't searching for peace. They're searching for control. They want life to obey them, to make sense, to stay within the lines they've drawn. But life doesn't do that. It never did. Peace starts the moment you stop trying to make everything perfect and realize it never was supposed to be. It's funny how we talk about finding happiness or achieving peace like it's this prize waiting at the end of a spiritual obstacle course. You meditate, you journal, you drink green juice, and one day you're supposed to wake up and feel permanently calm. But what if peace isn't something you arrive at? What if it's just a moment-to-moment choice you keep making in the middle of the noise? People think peace means silence, but sometimes peace is chaos that you finally stop fighting. It's when you realize that your thoughts don't have to be your enemies. They're just noise in the background of your mind. They come and go. The problem is we keep treating every anxious thought like it's a breaking news alert. You wake up in the morning and your brain immediately throws 1,000 what-ifs at you. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if everything falls apart? You start arguing with them like they're facts, but peace doesn't come from winning that argument. It comes from walking away from it. You don't need to silence your mind. You just need to stop letting it control the volume. Thoughts will always be there. They're like that one annoying friend who won't stop talking. You can't get rid of them, but you can choose when to listen. And I think part of the reason we struggle so much is because we've confused comfort with peace. We think if we could just eliminate every stressful thing in our lives, every bill, every argument, every insecurity, then we'd finally be happy. But comfort doesn't equal peace. Comfort is fragile. It disappears the second something unexpected happens. Peace, on the other hand, is quiet strength. It's being okay even when things aren't okay. It's the ability to breathe through the storm instead of pretending it's not raining. You ever notice how when things get calm in your life, your brain gets suspicious? Like you finally have a good week, and instead of enjoying it, you start waiting for something bad to happen. That's because we've trained ourselves to think that peace is the calm before the storm, not something we deserve to actually live in. And that's where anxiety gets its power, from the belief that peace can't last. So we sabotage it, we overthink. We create problems that aren't there just so we don't get caught off guard when life inevitably changes. But that's not living, that's surviving on autopilot. We've built this idea of inner peace as a destination when it's really just awareness. It's not a place you arrive at, it's something you carry with you. It's the quiet voice inside that says, yes, everything's messy, but I'm still okay. The people who seem peaceful aren't the ones who've eliminated all their chaos, they're the ones who stopped letting it. define them. They've made peace with not knowing, not being perfect, not having control. They understand that life doesn't owe them certainty. And that's where freedom begins, when you stop trying to negotiate with the unknown and just let it exist. You can't buy that kind of peace. You can't fake it either. You can post all the inspirational quotes you want, but true peace doesn't come from pretending to be calm. It comes from making friends with the parts of yourself you've spent years running from. The anxiety, the sadness, the guilt, the weird thoughts that pop into your head when you're alone, all of it. That's you. You can't find peace while hating parts of yourself. You can't make peace with life while fighting who you are. We live in a world that tells us to stay positive. And while that sounds nice, it's actually one of the reasons people feel worse. Because when you're told to just be happy, you start thinking something's wrong with you when you're not. So you suppress everything that doesn't fit into the happy box, and it builds up like pressure behind a fake smile. And then one day, it all explodes. Real peace isn't pretending to be fine. It's letting yourself feel everything without being consumed by it. It's crying when you need to, laughing when you can, and understanding that both are part of the same process. You can't have light without darkness. You can't have joy without fear. The idea that happiness means never feeling bad again is one of the biggest lies we've been sold. Life isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's about learning to move through it without losing yourself. Peace isn't perfection. It's permission. Permission to be flawed, to feel, to fall apart, to rebuild. It's that gentle acceptance that says, this is me today, and that's enough. It's wild how much time we waste trying to fix ourselves. Like we're broken machines that need constant upgrades to function properly. But what if there's nothing wrong with you? What if your anxiety isn't a malfunction, but just a signal that you care too much, think too deeply, or want too strongly? What if peace comes from understanding your own wiring instead of trying to reprogram it? We spend so much time trying to be normal, we forget that normal doesn't exist. It's just a setting on a dryer. And maybe that's why so many people never feel peaceful, because they're chasing a version of themselves that doesn't exist. They want to be confident without fear, kind without boundaries, happy without sadness. But real peace doesn't live in extremes. It's not all or nothing, it's balance. It's sitting in the middle of the storm and realizing you don't have to fix the weather. You just need to stop trying to control it. There's something incredibly freeing about surrendering, not giving up surrendering, letting go of the illusion that you can manage every outcome, predict every twist, or avoid every pain. Because the truth is, life doesn't care about your plans. It will show up uninvited, rearrange your priorities, and remind you that control is just another mask we wear to hide fear. The only real power you have is in your response. And peace is that moment between the event and your reaction when you decide not to let chaos dictate who you are. You can be in pain and still be at peace. You can be anxious and still be okay. Those things aren't opposites, they coexist. We've just been taught to pick one, but life isn't that simple. Some of the most peaceful people have walked through the darkest experiences. They're not calm because they've avoided pain, they're calm because they've faced it, felt it, and learned it doesn't last forever. Peace isn't about escaping reality, it's about seeing it clearly without running from it. It's strange, isn't it, how the more you accept your anxiety, the quieter it becomes? It's like a child throwing a tantrum. The more you fight it, the louder it gets. But when you sit down next to it and say, all right, I see you, let's breathe, it starts to lose its energy. That's how your mind works. It just wants acknowledgement. It doesn't need to be silenced, it just needs to be seen. We're so afraid of being uncomfortable that we miss the beauty in imperfection. Peace isn't a flawless picture, it's a cracked mirror that still reflects light. The cracks don't ruin it, they make it real. Every mistake, every loss, every anxious thought you've ever had, those are brushstrokes on the painting of who you are. And the sooner you stop trying to paint over them, the more beautiful the picture becomes. There's this quiet moment in life when you finally stop asking, when will I be happy? And start asking, what's stopping me from being content right now? And that shift changes everything. Because the answer is almost always expectation. Expectation that things should be different, that you should be different, that life should feel better. But peace isn't about waiting for things to change. It's about realizing that even in this exact imperfect moment, there's something worth noticing. Maybe it's the warmth of sunlight through a window, or the sound of laughter from another room, or even the stillness of your own breath. Those are tiny, quiet pieces of peace. They don't shout, they whisper. You just have to listen. And that's the truth we keep missing. Peace was never out there waiting to be found. It's been sitting inside you, underneath all the noise, waiting for you to stop trying so hard. You don't need to meditate on a mountaintop or read 100 books about mindfulness. You just need to be where you are, completely. Feel the weight of your life, the beauty of it, the sadness of it, and realize that all of it belongs. That's peace. It's not about escaping chaos. It's about realizing you were never lost in it. You were just learning how to see clearly. And when that realization hits you, when you finally stop searching for peace as if it's something you need to earn, you'll feel it quiet, simple, present. It won't be dramatic. It won't come with fireworks. It'll just feel like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. It'll feel like finally being okay with not being okay, because that's what peace really is. It's not perfection, it's acceptance. At some point in life, you realize that the goal was never to become perfect. The goal was to become real. Because somewhere along the way, we got tricked into believing that happiness meant polishing ourselves until there were no rough edges left. You see it everywhere, people curating their lives, adjusting themselves, hiding the parts that look too human. But you can't build peace on a lie. You can't find joy while pretending. Life's not a showroom, it's a workshop. It's messy, it's unpredictable, it's loud, and that's where all the beauty lives. The moment you stop pretending and start embracing the mess, something changes. You stop performing and start living. We spend years trying to become this ideal version of ourselves that doesn't even exist. We say things like, once I fix this, once I lose that, once I have this much money, then I'll finally be happy. But that version of happiness always stays one step ahead, doesn't it? You reach the goal, you achieve the thing, and still, there's that hollow little silence that whispers, okay, now what? That's the trick of perfection. It keeps you running on a treadmill that never stops. But when you accept imperfection, when you realize that happiness isn't waiting on the other side of flawlessness, everything slows down. You stop chasing and start noticing. We're so afraid of being seen as imperfect that we wear layers of emotional makeup just to appear stable. We act fine even when we're exhausted, say it's okay when it's not, smile when we want to scream. We call it strength, but it's actually fear, fear of being judged, fear of being vulnerable, fear of admitting we don't have it together. But the truth is, nobody does. Nobody's got it figured out. Even the people who look the most confident are just winging it with better lighting. Everyone's pretending to some degree, and when you finally see that, you stop feeling behind. You stop thinking you're the only one who's broken. The irony is that the moment you stop trying to look perfect is the moment people actually start connecting with you, because authenticity is magnetic. People don't relate to perfection, they relate to honesty. The ones who can admit, yeah, I'm struggling, but I'm still here, are the ones who make others feel seen. That's the kind of energy that makes life real. It's the difference between surviving in silence and living in truth. You can fake happiness, but you can't fake peace. There's a freedom that comes with embracing imperfection. When you stop hiding your cracks, you stop fearing who might notice them. You start showing up as you are not the polished, filtered version, but the real one. And sure, it's scary at first. It feels like taking off armor you've been wearing for years. But then you realize that armor wasn't protecting you, it was suffocating you. It was keeping you from feeling joy, love, connection. The weight you thought was keeping you safe was actually what was holding you down. Think about it. Every person you've ever admired deeply wasn't perfect. They were brave in their imperfection. They had flaws, contradictions, scars, and they didn't hide them. That's what made them human. That's what made them inspiring. It's not the people who never fall who move us. It's the ones who keep getting back up with the dirt still on their hands. There's something beautiful about seeing someone fully themselves, not pretending to have it all together, but showing up with their chaos and saying, this is me. Take it or leave it. We live in a world obsessed with image. Everything's about presentation. But the soul doesn't care about that. The soul wants depth, not decoration. It doesn't want fake smiles and curated lives. It wants moments that feel alive. When you strip away the filters and let yourself be seen tired, uncertain, emotional, that's when life starts to feel real again. Because perfection is sterile, it's cold. But imperfection has warmth, it has laughter, mistakes, and the kind of beauty that you can't plan. You ever notice that the best moments in life aren't the ones you planned? They're the unfiltered ones, when things go wrong and you end up laughing so hard you forget why you were ever stressed. Those are the moments that stick. The ones where you let go, where you stop performing and start being. That's where happiness hides. Not in the perfect photo or the perfect plan, but in the messy, unpredictable flow of real life. And that's the thing, we spend so much time trying to control everything, our image, our path, how people perceive us, that we forget control is an illusion. You can't choreograph life. You can't predict every twist. The beauty comes in surrender, in saying, I don't know how this will turn out, but I'm here for it. Because when you let go of needing everything to be perfect, you make space for it to be real, and real is better. Real is where you find peace. There's something almost sacred about being okay with imperfection. It's like telling life, you don't have to be perfect for me to love you. And the moment you extend that grace outward, you start giving it to yourself too. You stop expecting to be flawless, stop punishing yourself for being human. You realize that the cracks you've been trying to hide are the same ones letting the light in. Every mistake you've ever made, every heartbreak, every failure, they've shaped you. They've made you deeper, wiser, softer. You wouldn't be who you are without them. It's strange how people think happiness comes from success. Success is great, sure, but it's not the same as fulfillment. You can achieve everything you ever wanted and still feel empty if you never learn to love yourself in the process. Real fulfillment isn't about what you've achieved, it's about how honestly you're living. It's about waking up and knowing you're not pretending. That even if everything isn't perfect, you're at peace because you're being true. The people who live the fullest lives aren't the ones with the least problems. They're the ones who stop letting their problems define them. They stopped trying to control every outcome and started embracing every moment, even the bad ones. They know that. Pain is part of the story, not the end of it. They've learned to see setbacks as part of the rhythm of life, the dips that make the highs worth feeling. That's what embracing imperfection looks like. It's trusting that every crack, every scar, every uncertain step is still part of something meaningful. You can't grow without discomfort. You can't evolve without getting it wrong a few times. That's how you learn who you are. And the sooner you stop fighting that, the sooner life starts feeling lighter. Because all that pressure to be perfect, to be the best, the calmest, the happiest, it's exhausting. It keeps you chasing an image you'll never reach. But when you finally let go and say, I'm enough as I am, even if I'm still figuring it out, it's like exhaling after holding your breath for years. That's the moment freedom walks in. And maybe that's what happiness really is, not the absence of pain or fear, but the absence of pretense. Maybe happiness is what's left when you stop pretending to be anything other than yourself. Because when you stop trying to look strong, you find real strength. When you stop trying to be perfect, you discover grace. When you stop trying to impress everyone, you finally start connecting with them. That's where real joy hides, in the quiet honesty of being imperfect but true. It takes courage to live that way. To admit you don't have it all figured out. To say, I'm learning, I'm growing, and I'm okay with that. It's easier to wear the mask. But the mask keeps you distant from others and from yourself. Vulnerability feels like weakness, but it's the exact opposite. It's the birthplace of connection. When you show up without the armor, you invite others to do the same. And suddenly, the world feels a little less lonely. Because that's what we all really want, isn't it? Not perfection, connection, not control, freedom. We don't want a flawless life, we want a real one. We want to laugh from the gut, cry without shame, and wake up knowing we're allowed to be human. And that only happens when you stop dressing your anxiety in makeup and start accepting it as part of the story. It's not something to hide, it's something to understand. When you embrace imperfection, you stop waiting for the perfect moment to start living. You stop saying, I'll be happy when, and start realizing that life's happening right now. It's in the small things, the laughter that surprises you, the quiet moment when you catch yourself breathing, the peace that sneaks up on you when you stop chasing it. That's what's real. That's what lasts. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy. You don't need to be calm all the time to have peace. You don't need to have it all figured out to move forward. You just need to be honest with yourself, with your flaws, with your fears. Because when you stop running from who you are, you find that happiness was never gone. It was just buried under all the pretending. And that's the beautiful thing about being human. You don't have to be flawless to shine. You just have to be real enough to let the light through the cracks.